Thank you, seriously, for choosing this lesson today. Out of all the videos you could have clicked, you picked this one. And that tells me something crucial. It tells me you're committed. It tells me you're ready to break through. I'm Natasha, and today we are starting something very special. This isn't just another basic vocabulary lesson. This is an advanced English vocabulary masterclass designed specifically for learners who want to train their brain to think clearly, express emotion accurately, and sound completely natural in real-world conversations. Over this extensive training series, we are going to dive deep into C1 and C2 level expressions, the exact words that native speakers use naturally every single day, but that most textbook courses completely ignore. Think of this entire journey like a rigorous workout for your English brain. You don't need to be flawless right from the start. You just need to show up, stay present, and repeat after me. But before we begin our first lesson, I want you to do something essential to lock in your commitment. Like this video right now so you don't forget to come back to it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon because consistency beats talent every single time. Your future self will thank you for this decision, I promise. Now, let me be completely candid with you. Have you ever listened to a native English speaker and thought, wow, they sound so sophisticated, so natural, so fluent? Do you want to express yourself with that same level of confidence? Many advanced learners understand a massive amount of vocabulary, yet when they step into a real conversation, they freeze, hesitate, or find themselves stuck using the same basic words over and over again. They say something is good, bad, big, small, happy, or sad. There is nothing inherently wrong with those words, but if you want to break through the intermediate plateau and achieve true elite fluency, you need precision and nuance. Imagine replacing a generic phrase like a very big mistake with an enormous mistake. Imagine replacing very important with crucial. Suddenly, the entire texture of your English changes. You see, advanced English isn't about showing off or memorizing rare, complicated words that nobody actually uses on the streets. Advanced English is about choosing the exact word that matches the intensity of your feelings, your situation, and your tone. That is not showing off, that is clarity. Today, in part 1 of this masterclass, we are going to unlock our first foundational network of C1 and C2 words. Don't worry about feeling overwhelmed. I will guide you through this process in a simple, structured way. You will listen, repeat, shadow, and practice step by step until these words belong to you. Let's start with our first concept: how advanced speakers describe a deeply successful or meaningful experience. A basic speaker might say, "My day was good." A stronger speaker might say, "My day was productive." But an advanced speaker choosing precision will say, "My day felt fulfilling." Productive means you got things done, but fulfilling means it gave you a deep sense of internal meaning and satisfaction. Do you feel that subtle difference? Let's train your muscle memory right now. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me, even if you are alone. Let your voice get used to the rhythm. Repeat, fulfilling, fulfilling. Now shadow the full sentence with me, "My day felt fulfilling." Again, "My day felt fulfilling." One more time, say it with confidence, "My day felt fulfilling." Outstanding. Now, let's look at the opposite side of that spectrum: physical and mental fatigue. When you work all day, instead of just saying, "I'm tired," advanced fluent speakers constantly choose words that match the specific type of exhaustion they are experiencing. If you are physically spent, you say, "I'm exhausted." But if you feel like your energy, your spirit, or your emotions have been completely emptied by a situation, the precise word is drained. It sounds incredibly expressive and mature. Let's practice this together. Repeat after me, drained, drained. Now shadow the full phrase, I'm completely drained today. Let's do it again, feel the emotion in the words, I'm completely drained today. Now let's put it into a real-life situation to anchor it in your brain. I'm drained after a long week of work. Repeat it with me sentence by sentence. I'm drained after a long week of work. Excellent. To achieve true emotional accuracy, we must learn to map our vocabulary to the exact level of intensity we feel. Take the emotion of anger, for example. Basic English uses angry for everything, but a native speaker naturally navigates a scale of nuance. Annoyed is a small irritation. Frustrated is a controlled, often professional feeling when things aren't working despite your efforts. Furious is intense, burning anger. Let's practice switching between these levels so your mouth and mind learn to connect sound with feeling. Listen and repeat after me slowly. I'm slightly irritated by the noise. Again, let the words flow naturally. I'm slightly irritated by the noise. One more time, I'm slightly irritated by the noise. Now, let's move up the scale to frustration. Repeat, I'm frustrated because nothing is working. Again, clear and deliberate, I'm frustrated because nothing is working. One more time, I'm frustrated because nothing is working. Now, let's speak with maximum intensity for the highest level on our scale. Repeat after me. He was furious when he heard the news. Again, feel the rise and fall of the rhythm. He was furious when he heard the news. One more time, just like a native speaker would deliver it. He was furious when he heard the news. Wonderful job. Notice how the intonation of your voice changes naturally when the word changes. That is the essence of C1 and C2 speaking. You are no longer just mechanics. You are communicating true human feeling. Let's look at a brief, real-life story to show you exactly how these advanced words fit together in a natural sequence. Last week, I had a highly hectic schedule. I was juggling a massive project at work, and the environment was incredibly chaotic. To be completely candid, by Wednesday, I felt completely sidetracked and overwhelmed by my responsibilities. I was frustrated because our original system wasn't functioning as expected, and we were working against an incredibly tight deadline. By the end of each consecutive day, I came home feeling absolutely drained. I felt a bit down, and I even started to worry that I was burning out from the continuous pressure. However, I knew that panicking would be entirely irrational and counterproductive, so I made a deliberate effort to stay resilient and manage the situation as best as I could. I decided to look at the problem from a different perspective. First of all, I realized I needed to streamline my daily routine and prioritize what mattered most. I set up a smart workaround for the system error, which allowed our team to handle the issue effectively without wasting extra time or energy. It was an intense process, but through steady perseverance and focus, we managed to resolve the issue completely. When we finally achieved our goal and wrapped up the project, the relief I felt was absolute. Looking back, it was a profound experience that taught me a lot about my own capabilities. It was an exhausting week, yes, but ultimately, overcoming that obstacle made the entire journey feel deeply fulfilling. Now, my friends, it's time for us to practice shadowing this story together sentence by sentence. This exercise trains your ear and your speech muscles to move as one, building your confidence automatically. Relax your shoulders, listen to my voice, and repeat immediately after me with the exact same rhythm and intonation. Honestly, this week has been hectic. Work has been nonstop, and by the end of each day, I felt drained. I was facing a few unexpected obstacles, and at first, I felt a bit overwhelmed. What happened was I took on too much responsibility at once. I kept getting sidetracked by trivial matters instead of focusing on my main priorities. To be fair, it was a frustrating situation because our strategy wasn't very effective. Nevertheless, I knew I had to take responsibility and find a reasonable workaround. I made a deliberate choice to stop procrastinating and address the issue directly. Gradually, as I learned to slow down and map out my day, things got better. Eventually, our team managed to implement the new changes step by step. By the time we finished, the results were remarkable, and my manager was genuinely impressed. When it was finally over, I felt incredibly relieved and proud of our perseverance. Looking back, it was a temporary setback, but it gave me a massive sense of fulfillment. It is what it is, and I'm glad we figured it out in the end. Incredible work. You are doing an amazing job sticking with this practice. Now, here is your first official interaction challenge to prime the YouTube algorithm and prove your dedication to true fluency. Look back at the network of words we trained in this first part: fulfilling, productive, drained, irritated, frustrated, furious, and overwhelmed. I want you to choose at least 2 of these words and use them to write 1 or 2 short sentences in the comments right now. Or simply comment, "I am here," to show me that you are actively training your voice, not just watching passively. Your brain absorbs language through active engagement, so write your comment, take a deep breath, and get ready. In the next section, we are going to expand our vocabulary network even further as we transition smoothly into the elegant world of social intelligence, diplomacy, and the exact phrases fluent speakers use to navigate polite disagreement. Keep going, stay determined, and let's move forward together into Part 2. Welcome back to Part 2 of this advanced vocabulary masterclass. Now that we have established our foundation in emotional precision, it is time to transition into a domain that truly separates C1 and C2 speakers from the rest of the world: social intelligence, diplomacy, and the art of polite disagreement. In real life, especially in professional environments, high-stakes meetings, or intellectually stimulating conversations, you will inevitably encounter situations where you do not agree with the person across from you. Intermediate speakers often handle these moments clumsily. They might say, "No, I don't agree," or "That is wrong," which sounds aggressive, rigid, and confrontational. On the other hand, some learners become so hesitant that they choose to stay completely silent, compromising their own integrity just to keep the peace. Advanced fluency gives you a third path: the ability to express a contrasting viewpoint with absolute calmness, respect, and intellectual sophistication. Let us begin with the concept of perspective. When someone shares an opinion, an advanced speaker does not immediately judge it as right or wrong. Instead, they frame it as one way of viewing the world. To acknowledge their thought before offering your own, you can use the phrase, "I understand your perspective." This immediately softens the tone of the conversation. Let us practice this structural upgrade right now. Repeat after me slowly, letting your intonation remain calm and controlled. Perspective, perspective. Now shadow the full, elegant sentence with me. "I understand your perspective, but I see it differently." Again, clear and confident. "I understand your perspective, but I see it differently." One more time, feeling the natural rhythm of the phrase, "I understand your perspective, but I see it differently." Outstanding. That single sentence instantly makes you sound like an emotionally intelligent communicator. Now, let us upgrade another common phrase. When you are in a discussion and someone makes a point that is logical but does not completely win you over, A basic speaker might say, "Good point, but I'm not sure." To elevate this to a C1, C2 level, we use the word convinced paired with a soft connector. The exact phrase is, "I see what you mean, but I'm not fully convinced." To be convinced means to feel completely certain that something is true or right. By saying you are not fully convinced, you are politely telling the other person that their argument needs more evidence or elaboration before you can accept it. Let us train this structure together. Repeat after me, convinced, convinced. Now let us link it smoothly. I see what you mean, but I'm not fully convinced. Again, focus on a controlled, mature tone. I see what you mean, but I'm not fully convinced. One more time, I see what you mean, but I'm not fully convinced. Excellent. What happens when you want to look at a situation that is complex and open to more than one explanation? In textbook English, people often say, "This is confusing," or "It depends." But at an elite level, we use a beautiful C2 word, ambiguous. When a statement, a policy, or a response is ambiguous, it means the meaning is unclear or can be understood in multiple ways. For example, if your manager gives you feedback that could mean two opposite things, you can say, "His response was ambiguous." To resolve ambiguity without sounding rude, you must ask for clarification. Instead of saying, "Tell me more," advanced speakers use the verb elaborate. To elaborate means to add more detailed information to an idea. Let us unlock this powerful C2 upgrade pair. Repeat after me, ambiguous. Ambiguous, elaborate, elaborate. Now let us practice a highly practical sentence you can use in any professional meeting. Could you elaborate on your point a little? Repeat it with me. Could you elaborate on your point a little? One more time, smooth and natural. Could you elaborate on your point a little? Perfect. Let us bring these concepts together into a detailed real-life scenario so you can see how advanced social intelligence operates in a live conversation. Imagine you are sitting in a strategy meeting at work. A dependable colleague of yours, someone who is usually very analytical and articulate, suddenly proposes a dramatic shift in the project timeline. They argue that the team should implement a highly complex, intricate new software system immediately to speed up production. To many people in the room, this suggestion feels incredibly impulsive, risky, and slightly unreasonable. The room goes quiet. Everyone is hesitant to speak up because they do not want to cause conflict or sound aggressive. As an advanced communicator, you decide to handle this situation with absolute diplomacy. First of all, you listen in an empathetic, considerate way, allowing your colleague to finish their explanation fully. When they stop speaking, you do not reject their idea blindly. Instead, you take responsibility for moving the conversation forward constructively. You clear your throat, maintain a calm tone, and say, "That's a fair point." However, from my perspective, the execution of this strategy might be a bit overwhelming for the team at the moment, given our current tight deadlines. By phrasing it this way, you have validated their effort while simultaneously highlighting the practical obstacle. Your colleague responds, trying to defend their view, but their explanation remains somewhat vague and ambiguous. Instead of pressing them harshly, you use your C2 tools to ask for clarity. You look at them and say politely, "I understand your logic, but I have some reservations about the implementation process. Could you clarify how we can handle the potential system errors without getting sidetracked from our primary goal?" This forces your colleague to think deeper, shifting the energy of the meeting from a defensive argument into a logical, rational discussion. Eventually, after evaluating the pros and cons together, the team realizes that a total compromise is necessary. You suggest a brilliant workaround. Instead of implementing the whole system at once, you will streamline the process and introduce it step by step over the next quarter. Everyone in the room agrees that this is a much more manageable and effective solution. By remaining assertive rather than aggressive, and by choosing precise, respectful vocabulary, you have successfully guided the team toward a unanimous decision while preserving your professional relationships completely. Now, let us practice shadowing this exact style of diplomatic reasoning sentence by sentence. This longer, fluid exercise will train your brain to connect complex thoughts smoothly without translating word for word in your head. Relax your body, focus on my pacing, and repeat out loud with me. I see what you mean, but I'm not fully convinced yet. That's a fair point, however. I see it from a different perspective. To be completely honest, your original proposal sounded a bit ambiguous, so I was hesitant to commit immediately. Could you elaborate on your point a little just to make sure I follow your logic smoothly? To put it simply, I have some reservations about the current timeline because our resources are already at capacity. That being said, I am not saying it's a bad idea, and I genuinely appreciate your analytical approach to this issue. I understand where you are coming from, but implementing these major changes all at once might be counterproductive and cause a massive setback for the team. Therefore, moving forward, it could be a much more effective strategy if we try to find common ground and meet in the middle. If we adjust our expectations and adopt a temporary workaround first, that sounds entirely reasonable and sustainable for everyone involved. At the end of the day, we need a solution that aligns with our core values and brings real fulfillment, not just speed. Phenomenal work. You are training your brain to operate at an elite linguistic level. Before we conclude this second part, let us lock in this knowledge with our consistency challenge. I want you to actively participate right now to keep your mind engaged. Look at our diplomatic network of words: perspective, convinced, ambiguous, elaborate, reservations, and meet in the middle. Choose at least 2 of these advanced expressions and write one flowing, professional sentence in the comments below. If you are pressed for time, simply go, "I am still learning," to prove to the community that you are staying on track with your goals. Write your response, take a deep breath, and maintain your momentum. In the next section, we are going to go even deeper into the adult English world of mindset, mental resilience, and the exact vocabulary fluent speakers use to navigate severe pressure, burnout, and personal growth. Stay confident, keep believing in yourself, and let us carry on seamlessly into Part 3. Welcome back to Part 3 of this advanced vocabulary masterclass. You have shown incredible discipline by staying consistent and moving forward into this next chapter. In the first 2 parts, we unlocked the secrets of emotional precision and diplomatic social intelligence. Now, we are shifting our focus inward into a territory that dictates not just how you speak, but how you perceive your life and handle challenges. The mindset of perseverance, mental resilience, and personal growth. For a C1 or C2 speaker, describing everyday struggles requires absolute nuance. Intermediate learners often default to dramatic, black-and-white exaggerations when they are under pressure. They might shout, "I am dying of stress," or "everything is a total failure," which sounds childish, reactive, and flat. Advanced fluency, however, provides you with a rich palette of grounded, sophisticated vocabulary that allows you to express severe psychological pressure with complete control, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness. Let us begin with a core feeling that almost every modern professional and language learner experiences: the state of being completely overwhelmed. To feel overwhelmed means you have taken on too many responsibilities, tasks, or emotions at once, and the weight feels almost too heavy to carry. While a basic speaker says, "I have too much work," an advanced speaker will say, "I feel a bit overwhelmed at the moment." Notice how the addition of a bit, and at the moment, softens the tone, making it sound honest, mature, and non-reactive. Let us practice this essential C1 upgrade right now. Repeat after me out loud, letting your voice sound calm and grounded, overwhelmed, overwhelmed. Now shadow the full, natural phrase with me. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed at the moment. Again, steady and controlled. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed at the moment. One more time with feeling. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed at the moment. Outstanding. Now, let us examine what happens when this continuous pressure goes unaddressed for too long. The resulting state is not just simple tiredness. It is a profound condition known as being burned out. Burned out means you are mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted due to prolonged, unmanaged stress. For example, if you have been working 12 hours a day for consecutive months, you are not just tired, you are burning out. Let us train your brain to honor this powerful C1 C2 expression. Repeat after me, burned out, burned out. Now let us use it in a full, realistic sentence. I've been working non-stop and I'm starting to feel burned out. Let us do it again, mirroring the rhythm of a native speaker. I've been working non-stop and I'm starting to feel burned out. One more time. I've been working non-stop and I'm starting to feel burned out. Excellent. What defines a truly advanced mind is the ability to shift the narrative from the problem to your conscious response. When a crisis occurs, a basic speaker focuses entirely on the negative event, calling it a disaster or a failure. An advanced communicator, choosing accuracy over drama, views it as a setback. A setback is an unexpected problem that delays your progress, but does not permanently stop your journey. Recognizing an event as a temporary setback keeps your mindset rational and solution-oriented. The engine that drives you past a setback is perseverance. Perseverance is the steady, unyielding commitment to keep going even when a task is incredibly difficult. Let us unlock this mature vocabulary pair. Repeat after me, setback, setback, perseverance, perseverance. Now let us practice a highly empowering C2 statement. It's frustrating, but it's just a temporary setback. Repeat it with me. It's frustrating, but it's just a temporary setback. One more time with firm confidence. It's frustrating, but it's just a temporary setback. Perfect. Let us wrap all of these profound concepts into a detailed, inspiring story so you can see how psychological resilience and advanced vocabulary intertwine in real life. Imagine a dedicated entrepreneur named Sarah who spent over a year meticulously developing an innovative digital platform. She was incredibly motivated, juggling product design, cybersecurity, and investor relations all by herself. She wanted her project to be exceptional, so she pushed herself to the absolute limit, working through weekends and holidays. However, the continuous pressure began to take a substantial toll on her well-being. By the time she was a month away from the official deadline, she began to realize she had taken on far too much. She felt completely sidetracked, drained, and deeply overwhelmed. To be fair, she was experiencing the early, dangerous signs of being burned out. To make matters worse, during a critical system update, a massive technical error occurred, erasing a significant chunk of her team's data. It was a severe crisis. At first, Sarah felt a wave of panic. She was completely caught off guard, and her heart sank. Part of her felt hesitant and deeply apprehensive about the future of her company. But Sarah possessed a rare, powerful trait. She was immensely resilient. She understood that losing her composure would be completely counterproductive. She took a deep breath, embraced a mindful perspective, and decided to take full responsibility for the situation. She told her team, "This is an intense obstacle, but it is merely a temporary setback, not a defining failure." Instead of allowing anxiety to freeze her momentum, she acted with absolute focus and clarity. She decided to streamline their operation, prioritize the vital data recovery tasks, and implement a clever temporary workaround to keep the business functioning effectively. She worked collaboratively with her engineers, maintaining an empathetic and supportive tone throughout the long nights. It required monumental perseverance and steady discipline, but gradually, the system was fully resolved. Eventually, when the platform was successfully launched, the reception from the community was overwhelming and full of genuine praise. Looking back, Sarah realized that the technical disaster, though exhausting, was a crucial turning point. It had forced her to grow, to expand her self-awareness, and to learn how to manage her energy more intentionally. She realized that true success is not about avoiding problems, but about staying resilient through the storm. Overcoming that monumental obstacle ultimately gave her a deep, lasting sense of fulfillment that money alone could never buy. Now, my brilliant friends, let us practice shadowing this exact mindset of resilience line by line. This extended, fluid paragraph is designed to train your speech muscles, refine your rhythm, and solidify your ability to express complex inner states with ease. Relax your body, connect with the emotion of the narrative, and repeat out loud after me. Lately, I've been juggling a lot of responsibilities, and to be completely honest, it can feel a bit overwhelming at times. I've been working nonstop to achieve my personal goals, and I can occasionally feel myself getting burned out from the continuous pressure. That being said, I am choosing to be more mindful of my time and energy moving forward. I know that facing obstacles is an inevitable part of any meaningful journey, and I refuse to let fear slow down my momentum. From my perspective, discipline is not about performing flawlessly every single day. It's about having the perseverance to carry on even when motivation is low. Yesterday, I faced a difficult challenge that completely caught me off guard, and at first, I felt a bit hesitant and uncertain about what comes next. Nevertheless, I am making a deliberate choice to take responsibility for my path and address the issue directly. I understand that this situation is merely a temporary setback, not a permanent failure. Gradually, as I learn to evaluate my options rationally and look at the big picture from a broader perspective, things will become much more manageable. In the long run, staying consistent and acting with absolute integrity will change everything. It is what it is, and I am fully confident that I will find an effective workaround and figure it out step by step. Phenomenal training. You are working at the absolute peak of your linguistic capabilities today. Before we wrap up this third section, let us execute our interactive consistency challenge. Look closely at our resilience network of words: overwhelmed, burned out, setback, perseverance, resilient, and mindful. Select at least 2 of these advanced expressions and construct one powerful sentence that reflects your own mindset or life journey in the comments right now. If you are currently pressed for time, simply type "I am here" to verify that you are remaining dedicated to this practice. Write your comment, breathe deeply, and keep your energy high. In the next section, we are going to dive straight into the high-stakes professional arena, unlocking the precise, executive vocabulary that fluent speakers use to command respect, address corporate crises, and manage teams seamlessly in the workplace. Stay focused, trust the process, and let us transition smoothly into Part 4. Now, as we naturally transition from understanding our inner mental resilience, we must look at how these profound psychological traits manifest in the external world, particularly within the high-stakes, rigorous environment of corporate communication and strategic problem-solving. In the professional arena, true C1 and C2 fluency is not merely about executing tasks or speaking with correct grammar. It is about commanding respect, managing human capital, and demonstrating absolute composure during a corporate crisis. When a system breaks down or an unexpected error threatens a major deadline, intermediate speakers often react with visible anxiety, using simplistic, direct phrases like, "This is a huge problem," or "Someone made a big mistake," which instantly deflates team morale and diminishes their own executive presence. An elite communicator, however, approaches a professional crisis as an analytical challenge, using sophisticated, precise terminology to diagnose the issue clearly, establish accountability, and implement a calculated resolution without inducing panic. Let us examine the precise vocabulary required to address a corporate anomaly elegantly. Instead of declaring that a software or a process is broken, an advanced professional opts for the phrase, "It is not functioning as expected," or notes that there seems to be an issue with the current workflow. This strategic shift in language removes personal blame and refocuses the team's collective energy entirely on the mechanics of the problem. Once the issue is identified, an advanced leader does not wait for a perfect, long-term solution to miraculously appear while the company's operations are paralyzed. Instead, they propose a workaround. A workaround is a clever, temporary bypass or an alternative method used to maintain momentum and keep things moving effectively while the core system is being thoroughly resolved by experts. Let us absorb the linguistic structure of these executive concepts. When you need to express that an operational error requires immediate attention due to a looming contract date, you do not say, "This is very urgent and fast." You articulate the situation by stating, "This matter is highly time-sensitive, and it needs to be addressed with absolute priority." To address a problem means to confront it directly, deconstruct its components, and actively manage its elimination. Furthermore, a true leader possesses the emotional maturity to say, "That's on me. I take full responsibility for this oversight," which immediately builds massive trust, de-escalates tension, and establishes a culture of accountability within the workplace. Moving forward, the goal is always to streamline the entire process. To streamline a routine or a system means to strip away unnecessary complications, eliminate redundant steps, and maximize efficiency so that the operation becomes perfectly manageable and sustainable for everyone involved. To see these corporate dynamics function seamlessly in real time, imagine a major international marketing firm that is preparing to launch a massive global campaign for a prominent technology client. The project is incredibly complex, involving thousands of intricate moving parts, from virtual reality advertisements to advanced automation systems. The deadline is less than 48 hours away, meaning the entire situation is intensely time-sensitive. Suddenly, the chief technical officer discovers a critical system error. The primary data pipeline is completely jammed, causing the automated advertisements to display inaccurate information. It is an absolute operational nightmare. The atmosphere in the boardroom instantly becomes hectic and thick with tension. Some junior managers begin to lose their composure, offering vague, ambiguous explanations and pointing fingers at different departments. The project director, an exceptionally articulate and astute leader, steps forward to take total control of the narrative. She does not allow the panic to freeze the team's momentum. Instead, she addresses the boardroom with absolute calm and tone control. She looks at the client and the executives and says, "There seems to be a minor issue with the data pipeline. It is currently not functioning as expected, and as a result, it is slowing our deployment down. However, this is a temporary obstacle, and we are already evaluating our options to resolve it properly." By framing the disaster as a technical mismatch rather than a fatal failure, she instantly restores order and focuses the room on analytical execution. She turns to her head engineer and says, "I understand we cannot fix the core architecture before tomorrow's launch. Therefore, we need an immediate, effective workaround to ensure the campaign goes live without a single error. Could you walk me through a temporary strategy to bypass the main server?" The engineer, inspired by her calm assertiveness, quickly proposes a method to reroute the data through a secure secondary cloud. The director evaluates the pros and cons rapidly, realizes the strategy is entirely plausible, and says, "Excellent. Let's implement these modifications immediately. I take full responsibility for this adjustment, and moving forward, I want an update as soon as you can." Because of her swift, decisive intervention, the temporary workaround functions flawlessly. The global campaign launches on time, and the results are absolutely remarkable. The client is deeply impressed by the firm's resilience and capacity to handle immense pressure under a tight deadline. Looking back, the project director realized that this crisis, although exhausting, provided a perfect opportunity to evaluate the cracks in their operational system. Once the campaign is safely completed, she organizes a comprehensive review to permanently fix the core pipeline, eliminate redundant protocols, and further streamline their infrastructure. Through diplomatic communication, a solution-oriented mindset, and executive precision, she transformed a potential corporate disaster into an outstanding triumph for her company. Let us now absorb this exact architecture of executive reasoning by practicing our fluid, continuous speech muscles. Let the words move from your mind to your voice with absolute control, mirroring the deliberate pacing of a seasoned professional. There seems to be an issue with the main network system today, and it is currently not functioning as expected, which is unfortunately slowing down our entire operational pipeline. Given that our contract delivery date is tomorrow, this matter is highly time-sensitive, and it absolutely needs to be addressed with the utmost urgency by our technical department. Could you please confirm the specific details of the error on your end so we can evaluate the situation with complete clarity? If this oversight is a result of my department's actions, I will unhesitatingly take full responsibility for it and fix what I can for now. Nevertheless, we cannot allow this challenge to freeze our momentum, so we desperately need an effective workaround to keep things moving forward productively. I would recommend that we implement a simpler, temporary protocol to handle our data until the core system is completely resolved by the engineering team. Once we successfully get past this obstacle and wrap up the project, we must prioritize an extensive review of our infrastructure. Moving forward, we will meticulously analyze our workflow, eliminate any redundant steps, and completely streamline our routine to prevent an issue like this from ever occurring again. I would truly appreciate an update on your progress as soon as possible. By mastering these executive structures, your professional speech becomes an instrument of persuasion and stability, allowing your career trajectory to expand rapidly as you step effortlessly into the profound world of higher self-awareness, alignment, and internal grounding. As we naturally transition from the calculated, fast-paced environment of corporate problem-solving, we must understand that external professional excellence is fundamentally unsustainable without an equally profound level of internal grounding and mental clarity. In our pursuit of success, efficiency, and executive precision, it is incredibly easy to lose ourselves in the continuous demands of the outside world, allowing our actions to become entirely reactive, robotic, and mechanical. For a true C1 or C2 speaker, achieving the highest tier of fluency means moving beyond the language of mere transactions and developing the capacity to express the complex landscape of their inner life, values, and personal evolution with absolute maturity and calm control. Intermediate learners often struggle to articulate their philosophical reflections, defaulting to vague, childish summaries like, "I want to be happy," or "I am thinking about my life," which lack depth and emotional substance. Elite fluency, however, arms you with a sophisticated vocabulary of self-reflection, enabling you to discuss your core identity, boundaries, and life choices with complete articulacy and quiet confidence. The foundational cornerstone of this internal mastery is a psychological concept known as self-awareness. To possess self-awareness means to perceive your own thoughts, emotional patterns, strengths, and hidden biases with absolute clarity and honesty. It is the exact opposite of operating on autopilot. When you cultivate high self-awareness, you cease to blame external circumstances for your stress, and you begin to evaluate how your inner perspective shapes your reality. Let us absorb the delicate rhythm of this profound C2 concept right now. Repeat after me out loud, letting your tone become deeply grounded, slow, and reflective. Self-awareness, self-awareness. Now, shadow the full, mature structure with me. I'm actively working on my self-awareness. Again, calm and deliberate. I'm actively working on my self-awareness. One more time, feel the quiet weight of the phrase, I'm actively working on my self-awareness. Truly excellent. Once you develop deep self-awareness, you naturally begin to examine the relationship between your daily actions and your underlying values. Your values are the fundamental principles, beliefs, and moral standards that guide your life decisions. At an advanced linguistic level, when your career, your habits, and your daily routine match your internal beliefs perfectly, we say that your life is in alignment. Alignment is a state of internal harmony where there is no Mao-T-Hu letter 1 N or friction between what you believe and how you behave. Conversely, when you say yes to tasks that violate your principles just to please others or gain cheap status, you are executing a dangerous compromise. Specifically, you are compromising your integrity. Integrity means being fiercely honest and maintaining your ethical boundaries even when it is incredibly difficult or when nobody is watching. To say, "I don't want to compromise my integrity," is one of the most powerful, respected declarations an advanced adult speaker can make. To see how these deep, reflective structures manifest in real life. Imagine a prominent, highly successful corporate executive named David, who had spent decades climbing the corporate ladder in a hectic, cutthroat industry. On paper, his life was absolutely exceptional. He commanded respect in every boardroom, handled immense financial responsibilities, and implemented highly profitable automated systems across his firm. Yet, despite his outward triumph, David felt a profound, persistent sense of emptiness. By the end of each consecutive week, he returned to his home feeling completely drained, emotionally hollow, and hollowed out by the continuous pressure. He was severely burned out. To be completely candid with himself, he realized that his hectic lifestyle was no longer giving him any real fulfillment. He had spent years pursuing money and status, but his daily choices were completely out of alignment with his core values. This realization sparked a massive turning point driven by intense self-awareness. David understood that continuing on this path would mean permanently compromising his integrity just to satisfy his ego, which was entirely irrational and unsustainable. He made a deliberate, monumental decision to stop his corporate life for a brief period and step into a phase of deep grounding. He began practicing absolute acceptance. Acceptance does not mean giving up or being lazy. Acceptance means facing reality exactly as it is, without denial or drama, and choosing to move forward from a place of truth. He sat quietly by his window every morning, breathing slowly and learning to be fully mindful of his time, his energy, and his psychological state. David looked at his past from a broader, more mature perspective. He decided to streamline his entire existence, prioritizing his mental health, his family, and his connection to his local community. He deliberately turned down several high-paying, aggressive job offers that demanded his entire soul, recognizing that there is always a trade-off between external wealth and internal peace. Instead, he chose to focus on meaningful, supportive work, guiding and providing mentorship to young entrepreneurs who wanted to build ethical businesses. He began practicing gratitude every single day, recognizing that even the smallest, most mundane moments, a quiet cup of hot coffee, a serene morning walk, deserved immense appreciation. Eventually, through this consistent, gentle discipline, David found the internal harmony he had been missing for decades. His daily routine was now in perfect alignment with his soul. Looking back on his corporate crisis, he no longer viewed it as a failure, but as a crucial, necessary awakening. It had forced him to expand his self-awareness, take responsibility for his own happiness, and live a life of true intention. By choosing acceptance over resistance and integrity over status, he achieved a lasting sense of fulfillment that made him a truly whole human being. Let us now practice shadowing this architecture of philosophical reflection line by line, letting your voice carry the tranquil, controlled, and emotionally intelligent cadence of an advanced speaker. Lately, I've been taking a lot of quiet time to reflect on my path, and from my perspective, true success is not merely about accumulating wealth or status. It is fundamentally about meaning. I want my daily choices to reflect my deepest values, and I am making a conscious effort to bring my life into perfect alignment with my soul. I am continuously working on my self-awareness because I have realized that true clarity can only come from absolute honesty with oneself. Therefore, moving forward, I refuse to compromise my integrity or accept an unmotivated, reactive existence just to please the expectations of others. I want to live with absolute purpose and find a deep, lasting sense of fulfillment in the simple things I execute each day. When life becomes hectic, uncertain, or throws an unexpected obstacle in my way, I am actively practicing acceptance and gratitude. I understand that I cannot control every external event, but I can completely control my response and my perspective. Even when I face a temporary setback that catches me off guard, I will remain rational, mindful, and centered. I know that there is always a trade-off in the choices we make, but at the end of the day, I have to do what is right and sustainable for me. Step by step, through steady perseverance and quiet discipline, I am building a life that feels authentic, grounded, and genuinely complete. By embedding these deep, reflective linguistic patterns into your subconscious mind, your English speech transforms from a basic communication tool into an elegant mirror of your maturity, setting the stage perfectly for us to analyze the analytical world of critical thinking and mastering complex nuances. As we naturally transition from the tranquil landscape of internal alignment and deep self-awareness, we must understand that a truly grounded life also requires a sharp, highly developed intellect capable of navigating the complex, analytical demands of critical thinking and mastering subtle variations in meaning. At the C1 and C2 levels, fluency demands that you possess an analytical mind, the capacity to break down intricate data, look past superficial arguments, and evaluate a situation from multiple objective angles before making a final judgment. Intermediate speakers often process information in a black-and-white fashion, rendering quick emotional decisions or using generic words like smart or clear to describe people and ideas. An elite communicator, however, is recognized for being exceptionally perceptive and astute. To be perceptive means you naturally notice tiny, delicate details, shifts in tone, or hidden patterns that most ordinary people completely miss. When you use this perceptual sharpness to make clever, highly practical, and strategic choices in business or daily life, your decisions are celebrated as astute. A core component of this analytical mastery is understanding the definitive line between being assertive and being aggressive. This is a subtle nuance that many advanced learners misuse. An aggressive person pushes their opinions forcefully, cross-examines others without respect, and dominates a conversation through intimidation, which instantly breaks down trust. In contrast, an assertive speaker expresses their thoughts with absolute clarity, confidence, and calm authority, yet they remain deeply respectful of other perspectives. They state what they mean honestly without being combative. When a situation at work or in a discussion becomes highly complex and difficult to read, an intermediate speaker might freeze because the information feels too ambiguous. But an astute thinker welcomes ambiguity. They use their articulate communication skills to ask precise questions, dissect the problem logically, and look for an elegant compromise or a sustainable workaround that solves the issue effectively for everyone involved. To see this high-level critical thinking operate flawlessly under pressure, imagine a prominent financial analyst named Julian, who was tasked with evaluating a massive, multi-million-dollar investment proposal for an international tech enterprise. The project data submitted by the startup team was incredibly complex and intricate, filled with hundreds of moving parts regarding automation, scalability, and market metrics. To an ordinary investigator, the proposal looked exceptionally impressive and profitable on the surface. However, Julian possessed an incredibly disciplined, analytical mind. As he meticulously audited the financial projections, he noticed several inconsistencies that were deeply hidden beneath the brilliant marketing language. The startup's revenue model was highly ambiguous. It left several crucial liability questions completely open to interpretation. Instead of rejecting the proposal aggressively or creating a hectic argument during the board meeting, Julian decided to handle the evaluation with absolute diplomacy, poise, and tone control. He allowed the startup founders to finish their presentation completely, listening in a highly considerate, empathetic manner. When the room fell silent, waiting for his executive verdict, Julian spoke up with quiet confidence. He did not say, "This plan is a failure," or "You are trying to deceive us." Instead, he demonstrated an assertive presence. He looked at the founders and said, "Your presentation was incredibly articulate, and the technological vision is undoubtedly compelling. However, from my perspective, the core financial architecture remains somewhat ambiguous, and I have some reservations regarding your long-term sustainability models." The lead founder immediately became defensive, answering with a heated, slightly aggressive tone. Julian did not match that emotional energy. He remained completely calm, rational, and centered. He used his C2 vocabulary to steer the conversation back to logic. He looked at the data on the screen and said, "Could you please elaborate on your projected operational costs for the second quarter? Just to make sure I follow your logic smoothly, your current framework assumes that server demands will decrease, which contradicts our standard industry metrics." This precise, perceptive observation completely deflated the founder's aggression. It forced the startup team to drop their defensive stance and admit that their projections were overly optimistic. Because Julian chose to be assertive rather than aggressive, the board meeting transformed into a highly effective, problem-solving session. He helped both companies find common ground and meet in the middle. Together, they designed a realistic, restructured investment timeline that significantly reduced the risk for his enterprise while still providing the startup with the necessary capital to build momentum. It was an astute business resolution that saved millions of dollars. Looking back on the intense negotiation, the corporate executives were genuinely impressed by Julian's executive presence and critical thinking capacity. By mastering complex nuances, maintaining complete emotional control, and speaking with absolute intellectual precision, he had successfully guided his company toward a safe, rational choice while maintaining perfect professional relationships. Let us now practice shadowing this exact framework of analytical reasoning line by line, allowing your speech to mirror the deliberate, controlled, and confident cadence of a master thinker. When evaluating a complex situation, it is absolutely vital to maintain a highly disciplined, analytical mind and avoid making impulsive, reactive judgments based on superficial data. We must train ourselves to be immensely perceptive, noticing the subtle nuances and underlying patterns that completely alter the meaning of a professional discussion. In every high-stakes meeting, I make a deliberate choice to remain perfectly assertive, expressing my perspectives with absolute clarity and calm authority, without ever crossing the line into aggressive or combative behavior. Even when an obstacle appears completely chaotic, hectic, or ambiguous on the surface, a rational thinker does not panic or lose their executive presence. Instead, we must take immediate responsibility, address the core issue directly, and ask the right questions to clarify expectations and dissect the mechanics of the problem. I see what you mean, and that is a fair point. However, before I can fully commit to this timeline, I need you to elaborate on your data so we can accurately evaluate the long-term trade-offs. To put it simply, we cannot rely on vague or contradictory information when working against a tight deadline. Moving forward, we must find common ground, meet in the middle, and implement an effective workaround that ensures our execution remains entirely reasonable, sustainable, and aligned with our primary standards. At the end of the day, acting with absolute integrity and intellectual precision is what changes everything and leads to true professional fulfillment. By deeply embedding these analytical structures into your verbal repertoire, you train your brain to think directly in advanced English, structuring your arguments with the flawless logic required to master the fluid art of connectivity and transitional phrasing. As we naturally transition from the rigorous demands of critical thinking and analytical precision, we must master the linguistic bridges that allow our advanced thoughts to flow together with absolute fluidity and seamless connectivity. At the C1 and C2 levels, true eloquence is not merely about possessing a vast repertoire of sophisticated vocabulary. It is fundamentally about how elegantly you connect your ideas, transitioning from one complex argument to another without creating a broken, robotic, or disjointed experience for your listener. Intermediate speakers often present their thoughts in separate, isolated sentences, relying excessively on basic words like and, but, or so to move their narrative forward. This creates a mechanical cadence that disrupts the natural music of the language. An elite communicator, however, uses transition phrases as architectural bridges, guiding the audience through a continuous stream of logic where every cause, contrast, and additional detail links together with flawless rhythm and complete clarity. Let us examine the structural function of these advanced conversational and formal connectors. When you wish to introduce a secondary, highly supporting piece of information that strengthens your primary argument, a basic speaker defaults to also or in addition. To elevate your speech to an elite level, you choose the word moreover. Moreover signals to your listener that the upcoming point carries substantial weight and adds a new layer of intelligence to the discussion. Conversely, when you need to introduce an opposing viewpoint, a limitation, or a calculated contrast without sounding aggressive, you navigate the transition smoothly using however, or on the other hand. These structures show that you possess the intellectual maturity to evaluate a situation from a broader, more balanced perspective, recognizing that complex modern dilemmas are rarely black and white. Furthermore, to express a direct consequence or an analytical result flowing from a specific set of circumstances, advanced speakers implement, therefore, or note that as a result, a certain outcome has been triggered. When the path ahead feels entirely chaotic, ambiguous, or filled with unexpected obstacles, an intermediate learner might give up out of frustration. But an astute professional articulates their resilience by using the C2 connector, nevertheless. To use nevertheless means to declare that despite all the difficulties, setbacks, or continuous pressure currently standing in your way, your momentum remains completely unyielding and you will firmly carry on with your strategy. Ultimately, when you summarize your final reasoning or look at the ultimate trade-off of a major life decision, you implement the phrase in the long run or at the end of the day. anchoring your conclusion in sustainable, real-world growth. To see these powerful transitions weave an intricate narrative together, imagine an international architectural project manager named Helen, who was executing a massive, highly innovative urban redevelopment program in a prominent metropolitan city. The project blueprint was exceptionally complex, involving advanced automation systems, digital infrastructure, and strict environmental regulations. The timeline was intensely time-sensitive, and the team was working against an incredibly tight deadline. To make the situation even more hectic, a sudden globalization crisis caused a massive shortage of essential building materials, threatening to completely paralyze their operational pipeline. It was a monumental obstacle that caught the entire enterprise off guard. Helen, demonstrating an articulate, assertive executive presence, immediately organized a comprehensive emergency meeting to address the crisis directly. She did not allow the panic to freeze her team's momentum. Instead, she structured her presentation using flawless transitional logic to maintain complete control of the narrative. She stood before the board and said, "Our material supply chain has been severely disrupted by external economic factors. However, our primary engineering objectives remain entirely manageable if we act with absolute discipline and focus. Moreover, we have already detected a highly plausible alternative local supplier that can provide us with the necessary structural components step by step." The financial directors immediately expressed deep reservations, arguing that the local materials would cause a substantial increase in the initial budget, making the immediate implementation plan seem somewhat unreasonable. Helen, remaining perfectly calm, rational, and emotionally intelligent, steered the discussion back to strategic critical thinking. She looked at the spreadsheet and responded, "I completely understand your financial perspective, and your cost concern is entirely valid. Nevertheless, delaying our deployment will trigger severe contractual penalties from our client. As a result, a temporary budget increase is an inevitable workaround to keep our operations functioning effectively right now. In other words, we must accept this short-term trade-off because, in the long run, finishing the infrastructure on time is what safeguards our company's reputation and brings true fulfillment." Because Helen connected her arguments with absolute structural fluidness and clear cause-and-effect reasoning, she successfully persuaded the board without ever becoming aggressive or combative. The directors reached a unanimous agreement to implement her proposed modifications immediately. The urban project proceeded smoothly, bypassing the global supply obstacle completely, and the final architectural structure was celebrated as an outstanding masterpiece of modern innovation. Looking back on the intense corporate crisis, Helen realized that her capacity to streamline information and connect thoughts logically was the ultimate key to her success. She had transformed a highly chaotic, ambiguous corporate threat into a brilliant demonstration of team resilience and corporate integrity. Let us now practice shadowing this exact framework of fluid, continuous connectivity line by line. Let your voice capture the smooth, continuous, and confident cadence of an advanced speaker who guides their audience effortlessly through a river of logic. Learning to express oneself with absolute fluency in a foreign language is an intricate process that undoubtedly requires immense patience and time. However, this difficult journey becomes significantly more manageable when you commit to practicing slowly, deeply, and deliberately every single day. Moreover, as you transition away from memorizing isolated textbook rules, you start noticing natural patterns in real-world conversations. In other words, your subconscious mind begins to actively think directly in advanced English, bypassing the slow, counterproductive habit of internal translation completely. On the other hand, if your practice routine remains sporadic or undisciplined, your linguistic progress inevitably slows down. As a result, you may occasionally find yourself feeling intensely frustrated, drained, or stuck, using basic vocabulary over and over again. Nevertheless, if you maintain your dedication and stay focused on your long-term vision, your internal confidence will expand remarkably step by step. To put it simply, we must understand that temporary setbacks are merely opportunities to evaluate our methods and refine our self-awareness. Therefore, moving forward, I am making a mindful choice to prioritize consistency over flawless perfection, utilizing every challenge as a stepping stone toward personal growth. In the long run, this steady perseverance completely changes everything, allowing your speech to flow naturally, express profound human emotions with absolute accuracy, and unlock extraordinary opportunities around the world. At the end of the day, you must always stay true to your values and do what brings real alignment and internal fulfillment to your life. By mastering these transition structures and embedding them deeply into your verbal habits, your advanced English speech achieves a state of flawless, unbroken continuity, preparing you perfectly to explore the deeply human world of emotional accuracy, empathy, and building lasting connections with others. As we naturally transition from the structural fluidness of master connectors and transitional phrasing, we must understand that advanced linguistic competence is ultimately a shallow victory if it is not driven by an equally profound capacity for emotional accuracy, empathy, and the ability to forge sincere human connections. At the C1 and C2 levels, true communication extends far beyond the intellectual delivery of logical arguments or professional metrics. It fundamentally requires the capacity to navigate the delicate, vulnerable landscape of human relationships with absolute maturity, consideration, and poise. Intermediate speakers often find themselves emotionally paralyzed when a conversation shifts into deeper, more personal territory. When a friend or colleague experiences personal distress or disappointment, an intermediate learner might default to mechanical, textbook cliches like, "Don't be sad," or "Everything will be okay," which can sound artificial, dismissive, and entirely detached. An elite communicator, however, uses their expansive vocabulary to express profound empathy, providing a safe psychological space for others while maintaining complete emotional intelligence and sincerity. The absolute cornerstone of this relational mastery is a behavior described as acting in an empathetic way. To be empathetic means to deliberately step outside your own ego, deconstruct your personal biases, and choose to perceive a situation through the emotional reality of another person. It requires you to be profoundly considerate of their unexpressed burdens, their boundaries, and their quiet struggles. When you cultivate this level of consideration, your social interactions transform completely. People no longer view you as just a fluent speaker. They view you as a trustworthy, grounded confidant. Let us absorb the elegant, soft rhythm of this essential C2 concept right now. Repeat after me out loud, letting your tone become deeply warm, comforting, and slow. Empathetic. Empathetic. Now shadow the full, emotionally intelligent structure with me. He listened to my concerns in an empathetic way. Again, gentle, and deliberate. He listened to my concerns in an empathetic way. One more time, feel the sincere warmth of the phrase. He listened to my concerns in an empathetic way. Truly beautiful. Within the realm of advanced emotional precision, we also master the language of resolving relational tension, a skill known colloquially as the capacity to clear the air. To clear the air means to initiate a difficult, intensely honest conversation with someone to remove unexpressed resentment, awkwardness, or misunderstandings that have built up over time. An astute communicator understands that ignoring a conflict allows negative emotions to build up below the surface, which is completely counterproductive and inevitably damages the foundation of trust. When you say, "I want to clear the air," you are demonstrating immense self-awareness and accountability. Furthermore, an elite speaker knows how to express their deepest appreciation without relying on basic phrases like, "Thank you very much." They elevate their gratitude by saying, "I am truly grateful for your support," or "I appreciate you being there for me," which carries absolute weight, sincerity, and depth. To see this deep emotional intelligence operate flawlessly within a complex human dynamic, imagine a senior corporate team leader named Arthur, who had been managing a highly creative design division for a prominent media firm. The work environment was intensely hectic, and the team had been working nonstop against an incredibly tight deadline to deliver a massive project for an important client. Because of the continuous pressure, the atmosphere in the studio became heavily strained, and communication began to break down completely. During a chaotic review session, Arthur, caught off guard by a system error, made a highly critical, sharp observation regarding the work of his lead designer, Clara. To be fair, his comment was completely inconsiderate, insensitive, and entirely uncharacteristic of his usual supportive leadership style. Clara felt deeply hurt, disappointed, and emotionally wounded by his harsh delivery. Instead of reacting aggressively or creating a scene in front of the executives, she chose to stay quiet, but over the next few days, her motivation completely plummeted. She became reserved, unmotivated, and detached, causing a substantial drop in the team's creative momentum. Arthur, possessing an immensely perceptive and self-aware mind, quickly noticed this delicate psychological shift. He understood that leaving this wound unaddressed would be a catastrophic mistake for their collaboration. He knew he had to take total responsibility for his oversight and actively clear the air before the tension became permanently toxic. Arthur did not send a cold, rigid corporate email. Instead, he waited until the end of the day when the studio was quiet and tranquil and invited Clara for a private discussion. He looked at her with absolute sincerity and tone control, completely dropping his executive authority. He said, "Clara, I want to clear the air regarding what happened during Wednesday's meeting. To be completely honest, I have been feeling a bit overwhelmed by our deadlines, but that does not excuse my behavior. My comment was incredibly inconsiderate, and that was entirely my mistake. I take full responsibility for it, and I am genuinely sorry for hurting you." Clara was genuinely astonished by his vulnerability and his absolute lack of arrogance. She took a deep breath, embraced his perspective, and responded, "Thank you, Arthur. I understand the timeline is highly time-sensitive, and we are all juggling immense stress. I was frustrated by the system errors too, but your words caught me off guard. I appreciate you initiating this conversation. It means a lot to me." By choosing to address the conflict directly and express himself with absolute emotional precision, Arthur completely dissolved the tension. They designed a better workflow workaround together, restored their creative momentum, and delivered an outstanding campaign that left the client genuinely impressed. Looking back on the experience, Arthur realized that true leadership is not about acting flawlessly, but about having the empathy to protect your team's heart through the storm. Let us now practice shadowing this exact framework of empathetic communication line by line. Let your voice capture the warm, calm, and deeply sincere cadence of a speaker who values human connection above all else. I want to clear the air because I've been feeling a bit frustrated lately, and I don't want any negative tension to build up between us over a simple misunderstanding. To be completely honest, I felt deeply hurt and disappointed by what was said during the meeting yesterday, and it completely caught me off guard. I know you didn't mean to cause any distress, but it still affected my focus, and I believe it is vital to communicate our boundaries with absolute clarity and maturity. I understand where you are coming from, and from my perspective, I know you are juggling an immense amount of pressure right now. Nevertheless, I want you to know that I appreciate you immensely, and I value our professional and personal relationship far too much to let an obstacle like this disrupt our alignment. Thank you for listening to my concerns in such an empathetic, considerate way. Your understanding genuinely means a lot to me, and I am truly grateful for your continuous support. If my reaction was a bit unreasonable or irrational, I unhesitatingly take full responsibility for my part of the issue. Moving forward, let us promise to evaluate our challenges rationally, stay true to our values, and support each other as we build real momentum toward our shared goals. At the end of the day, acting with absolute sincerity and mutual respect is what allows us to find true fulfillment and overcome any adversity together step by step. By mastering these deep, emotionally resonant linguistic structures, your advanced English becomes a bridge for healing and trust, ensuring your communicative presence remains immensely powerful as you step effortlessly into the hyper-efficient world of time management and generating productivity momentum. As we naturally transition from the warm, deeply human landscape of emotional intelligence and relational trust, we must examine how these internal grounded states allow us to construct an external reality of hyper-efficiency, master time management, and build unyielding productivity momentum. At the C1 and C2 levels, articulating your relationship with time requires absolute precision and strategic nuance. Intermediate speakers often describe a demanding schedule with generic, chaotic complaints like, "I am too busy," or "I have no time," which instantly diminishes their professional poise and makes them sound completely passive to their circumstances. An elite communicator, however, views time as a fluid resource to be actively mastered, structured, and communicated. They utilize precise corporate and lifestyle expressions to establish boundaries, map out execution strategies, and manage a heavy workload with absolute composure and clarity. The primary linguistic tool for communicating a modern, highly compressed schedule is the phrase, "pressed for time." To be pressed for time means you are working within a very limited window, requiring you to eliminate redundant small talk and get straight to the vital core of an issue. When a professional says, "I am a bit pressed for time today, so I'll keep it brief," they are demonstrating absolute focus, control, and respect for everyone's efficiency. Frequently, this pressure is a direct result of juggling a lot. To juggle a lot means to simultaneously manage multiple major responsibilities, such as corporate campaigns, continuous education, and family priorities without allowing a single piece to drop. The ultimate danger when managing a hectic schedule is getting sidetracked. To get sidetracked means to be pulled away from your primary objective by trivial, irrelevant distractions. An astute mind, therefore, makes it a top priority to streamline their day, stripping away complex inefficiencies to ensure their routine remains entirely manageable, balanced, and productive. To see this high-level productivity manifest in real life, imagine an international operations director named Marcus, who was tasked with launching a major multicultural digital initiative across 3 continents. The execution structure was extraordinarily complex, filled with intricate automated systems and time-sensitive software deployments. Marcus was intensely pressed for time, running behind on his global schedule due to an unexpected system bottleneck in Europe. He was currently juggling investor relations, cybersecurity upgrades, and direct team mentorship all at once. To make matters more hectic, the official product launch was facing an incredibly tight deadline, leaving zero room for procrastination or administrative errors. Instead of allowing this massive weight to trigger a severe burnout, Marcus utilized his advanced critical thinking and self-awareness to build immediate momentum. He organized an urgent alignment briefing with his global team and addressed them with complete tone control. He said, "Team, we are currently working against an exceptionally tight deadline, and I am personally a bit pressed for time today, so I want to streamline our discussion and focus entirely on our top priorities. We cannot afford to get sidetracked by trivial operational data right now." By establishing this clear linguistic boundaries, he instantly cut through the corporate noise and focused the room on execution. He opened his digital dashboard and said, "First of all, I need to map out our deployment structure for the next 12 hours. Our core server is not functioning as expected, so we need to implement a calculated workaround immediately to keep our automation data flowing productively. I want our technical division to tackle this issue first thing, while the marketing department focuses on building consumer momentum online. Once we bypass this obstacle, we can wrap up the regional launch and celebrate our victory together." Because Marcus connected his execution steps with absolute clarity and analytical precision, his team responded with immense discipline. They bypassed the technical bottleneck completely, achieved their primary deployment goals, and launched the global initiative with outstanding success. The tech enterprise was deeply impressed by Marcus's executive presence and capacity to streamline a chaotic crisis into a highly manageable victory. Looking back on the intense week, Marcus realized that building real momentum requires an unyielding commitment to daily organization. He permanently restructured their operational calendar, eliminated redundant protocols, and ensured that moving forward, every single team member was completely aligned with the company's core values and primary standards. Let us now practice shadowing this exact framework of professional time management line by line, letting your voice capture the crisp, deliberate, and highly structured pacing of an elite executive. Lately, I've been juggling an immense number of personal and professional responsibilities, and because I am frequently pressed for time, I have realized the absolute importance of becoming more intentional with my daily routine. We are continuously working against tight deadlines, and if we allow ourselves to get sidetracked by trivial matters or frozen by temporary setbacks, our progress will inevitably break down. Therefore, moving forward, I am making an astute choice to map out my schedule with complete precision every single morning, selecting my top priorities and tackling the most difficult obstacles first thing without a single moment of procrastination. I am actively working to streamline my day, strip away redundant habits, and ensure that my workload remains entirely manageable and sustainable for my well-being. Once I take responsibility for my schedule and build steady momentum, the entire learning process becomes significantly easier and more fulfilling. I understand that unexpected system issues are an inevitable part of life, but I am fully confident in my capacity to implement an effective workaround, stay on track, and resolve any crisis calmly. In the long run, maintaining this relentless level of discipline and consistency is what changes everything, allowing my skills to expand remarkably and transforming my life into a beautiful stream of continuous growth. I just want to focus on what matters most, wrap up my assignments effectively, and enjoy the serene peace that comes from true professional mastery. By mastering this productivity vocabulary, your speech reflects a mind that commands absolute control over its environment, establishing the perfect foundation for us to complete our masterclass by unlocking the ultimate C2 fluency mindset and sealing your linguistic identity forever. This brings us directly into the ultimate defining chapter of our Advanced Vocabulary Masterclass, a space where we deconstruct the core psychology of true fluency and lock in your permanent identity as an elite English speaker. Throughout this extensive journey, we have meticulously trained your brain across vast networks of advanced language, from emotional accuracy and corporate diplomacy to mental resilience and executive productivity. However, you must understand a profound truth. Learning C1 and C2 vocabulary is never about showing off, memorizing long lists of rare dictionary words, or trying to look superior to others. True fluency is fundamentally about precision, deep connection, and the courage to express your authentic soul in real time without fear, hesitation, or internal translation. Intermediate learners remain permanently trapped in a state of linguistic anxiety because they chase a rigid, impossible standard of flawless perfection. But an elite C2 speaker knows that fluency is a process of continuous connection, not an error-free machine. To fully step into this advanced identity, you must master the habit of self-correction without panic. When a native speaker hesitates or makes a small grammatical slip in casual speech, they do not freeze, stumble, or descend into intense self-doubt. They simply use soft conversational buffers like, I mean, sorry, what I mean is, or how should I put it, to smoothly adjust their wording and carry on with their river of thought. This natural flexibility is what gives their speech a calm, persuasive cadence. Furthermore, to speak like a native, you must actively learn to think in ready-made language chunks and common collocations rather than constructing sentences word by word from a set of abstract grammar rules. By storing phrases like, at the end of the day, in the long run, or that makes perfect sense as complete blocks of meaning, your brain saves immense cognitive energy, allowing your advanced thoughts to roll off your tongue with absolute fluidness and ease. Let us lock in your ultimate fluency transformation by practicing our final, most comprehensive shadowing flow. This longer paragraph is designed to synthesize every single skill you have built today, blending precision vocabulary, master connectors, perfect tone control, and profound self-awareness into one continuous, unbreakable stream of speech. Relax your posture completely, let your confidence rise naturally, and repeat out loud with me with absolute pride. Learning to master a language at a C1 and C2 level is a magnificent journey that teaches you how to express who you truly are with absolute depth and clarity. Looking back on where I started, I realize that every temporary setback and every minor mistake was simply an essential part of my personal growth. To be completely candid, there were days when I felt deeply frustrated, overwhelmed, or apprehensive about my progress. Nevertheless, I chose to stay determined, practice mindfulness, and prioritize consistency over perfection. I understand that true fluency is not about being flawless. It is about having the courage to connect honestly, speak from the heart, and embrace your unique voice with quiet confidence. Moving forward, I am making an intentional choice to live and think directly in advanced English every single day, integrating this beautiful language into my hobbies, my career, and my inner reflections. I will continue to expand my self-awareness, ensure my actions remain in perfect alignment with my core values, and protect my professional integrity with absolute dedication. Even when an unexpected corporate or life crisis appears chaotic and ambiguous on the surface, I know I possess the analytical mind, the emotional intelligence, and the resilience to evaluate my options rationally, implement an effective workaround, and streamline any system step by step. Moreover, in my daily interactions, I will treat others in a deeply empathetic, considerate way, mastering tone control to ensure my words remain perfectly supportive, diplomatic, and sincere. At the end of the day, I don't need to be perfect. I just need to connect. I am no longer just a learner studying foreign rules from a textbook. I am an authentic, articulate English speaker, and my voice is powerful, natural, and completely real. This practice works, consistency changes everything, and in the long run, my future self will look back on this dedication with immense gratitude and fulfillment. I am exactly where I need to be, and I am ready to step out into the world and express my thoughts confidently because true fluency is already flowing effortlessly within me. Congratulations, my brilliant friends. You have officially completed this monumental advanced English vocabulary masterclass. You have shown a rare level of ambition, discipline, and perseverance by staying focused through this entire rigorous training session. Most people quit when the path becomes long and challenging, but you stayed, you repeated, and you proved that you are completely committed to your growth. Your brain has successfully absorbed an extraordinary network of C1 and C2 language that will transform how the world perceives your intelligence and presence. Now, before we close, let us prime the YouTube algorithm one last time to push this educational masterclass to dedicated learners worldwide. Leave your final comment below using any 2 advanced words you mastered today, or simply type your favorite reflective phrase to seal your victory. Thank you sincerely for trusting me to guide you on this journey. Keep listening, keep repeating, stay confident, and never stop shining brightly. This is Natasha from Talk Grow English, and I will see you in our next elite training episode. Take care and goodbye for now, my friends.